Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. Today I wanted to go over some really amazing channelings from the Confederation that are absolutely like Q'uo, but unique and different. It's interesting if you study the law of one material and the channelings that are related to it, such as Q'uo, which we've gone over on a number of different podcasts. We've talked about Hatonn, and there is also L'Twi. There is one channeling that would come through that I found super fascinating. Starting in April of 1985, they showed up and were only around for about a year and a half. I don't know if Lalima left or if at some point in time Carla challenged Lalima, but they are speaking as a representative of the Confederation with approval from the Council of Saturn. And they even say this, and they have some interesting answers to some questions, and definitely speak in a little bit different syntax, and I really enjoyed it. They called themselves L/Lima, and they pronounced it Lalima. I will try to share some of the best channelings I could find from Lalima. On April 28th, 1985 was the first channeling. Carla channeling said, "I am Lalima. I am of the Confederation, and I greet you in the love and the light of the infinite Creator in whose oneness we dwell. What a circumstance! I know you have not called me. I have never spoken to humans. We are having a good time with this instrument, for we find that as we pick and choose that which we wish to say among the various oddments that she stores in her brain, there are many non-linear connections which cause communication using this instrument to be enjoyable for us. We shall speak to you, but first we wish to give a history of ourselves, for we would not come to speak with those who did not wish us. We are only humble, and if we do not serve, we should not come. We are going to use this instrument's vocabulary because it helps us. We are unused to many instruments. We are unused to using any instruments. We can even play 4 bars of boogie woogie. This instrument is most enjoyable. We are in the same line of work as those who call themselves to you L'Twi. We are of the density of light, and therefore as we have volunteered for this task, we have been in the color spectrum, or should we say, the various densities spectra of your planet. Our concern is somewhat different. We are not quite so much the generalist as was L'Twi before this word entity's channel was heard in this group. We work mostly in the area of clarification of belief. We scan. Clarification of the fastidiousness with which each nexus of each individual, which has come through the subterranean days and nights and centuries which separate it from full third density. We note each bias for change in intensity of each mind-body-spirit complex. We are surprised at this instrument, however. We are not surprised at this instrument. This instrument has been used by one who would use that gift. We must push on, for we wish to not just enjoy this instrument, but to share our thoughts with you. We were working in the same vicinity with ones of L'Twi who mentioned that this instrument was enjoyable to use and suggested that we launch ourselves into service, for in L'Twi's estimation, there was service, and as each of you is unique. Each service is unique. Though we say the same thing, each of us, we all ask that you turn to the Creator, the one original thought. However, let us regress amidst the digression. We asked a select group of the Confederation for permission to use this instrument, as it is necessary to gain special permission to use an instrument which has been in agreement with those which have gone before the Council of Saturn. We were given permission to do what we could with this instrument at this time, and we hope that as we ramble, we may move you and fill you with joy and with the intensity of desire that we feel for you. It's an interesting thing, your language. In this instrument's mind, we see roots going deep into the past of your planet's written history. We select 2 words, vacation/vocation. We ask you to consider one small difference in your rendition of this sound complex. Vacate, to be open, and voca, to call or be called. Vacation, to have time, to be free, to be empty. Vocation, to be called, to be selected, to be initiated. We find it unfortunate that those of you in this group come to the group as full of vacation as vocation, not because this is incorrect for third density, but because each of you has vocation, and the joy of vocation is such that we would risk annoying you by suggesting that the enjoyment of vacation is on a completely different level of living quality than the soul that seeks vocation. You all tune with the same tuning, and yet you are not fully a circle, for there is too much of the individual queries which do not have universal meaning. This is also acceptable, but it reduces the ability of a positively polarized entity, such as ourselves or any one of the Confederation entities, from speaking clearly because of the great desire to not in any way tear down but always build up. Yet there are those things which need examination. In terms of the workaday world, the need for the empty time, the vacation, is a balance and not a luxury. It is not this vacation of which we speak. At a much deeper level of self, there is the choice between the self that will take itself seriously no matter what the consequences, and the self who wishes time off and time out. What you wish, you will receive. If you wish vocation, you will have life with moments of joy completely indescribable in any terms except those known to those who have experienced full life in service, full polarization, full use of catalyst, full joy in all there is. We would urge you to think upon this. There are things one does to collect the denaro. These jobs may be fun or not. This is not vocation. A vocation is that which is so loved that you are called to it, not because you understand or have reason that you should call and go, but because you are called and you must go. Each of you is infinite and beautiful creator stuff. Do you acknowledge the potential seriousness of that statement? You must always remember it is not the answers you will find most illuminating, for as you learn, you will learn that it is the questions themselves that live, and it is the company of those who seek that may aid you in becoming seekers. Serious, with laughter, of course, for seriousness should be full of joy. It should be full of all that you are and all that you have. If you wish to be a serious seeker, it is not tomorrow or yesterday that you will be a serious seeker. Take yourself now and acknowledge that you are God stuff. Then ask yourself, if you wish to seek the truth, that question alone will fill lives. We enjoy rambling with you, and yet, though the ones of Hatonn have been most generous, we feel we should stop our talking. We would prefer to answer queries, but we cannot use this instrument and do so. Therefore, if there is any desire for my return, it shall be as desired. There will, however, be no questions unless there is the question of the group, which may be spoken or unspoken, but gains great power by its being unified. We leave you with a merry ditty and hope that the rest of your experience this evening may inspirit and enliven and fill, and that you hear only that which you need, discarding the rest of our foolish talk. We have been besides ourselves to have this experience of working with this instrument and talking with those upon the sphere. We have been working within the sphere, and the mentalities are not as they are in this group, and in this group's collective memory in the room. We wish to leave you on the very pinnacle of all that is true. We are yourselves. This instrument's mind looks as though it thinks of how to spell my name. I thought for at least a week, we cannot know your time. We thought about the name, for we had not previously had one which would mean name to me. We chose Lalima for subjective reasons known to ourselves. We offer you the spelling L/Leema. We L/leave you in the L/love and L/light of the infinite creator. We are one. Do you know what that slash means, my friends? We are one. Think upon the creator. We leave you in his love. We are Lalima. Adonai. Adonai. Then Jim begins to channel Lalima. stating, "I am Lalima, and we greet you again through this instrument in love and light. We had some time penetrating this instrument's resistance, shall we say, to initiating a new contact. We have heard about this instrument's resistance. We find it very interesting. We are, as we mentioned, unused to speaking to or through human beings. It is a fascinating experience to look within your minds and discover the means by which you have furnished them. We are also desirous of serving by means of attempting to answer queries. Our brothers and sisters of Lutwi have also recommended that this group is a good one with which to begin in this endeavor, for it without fail can provide many queries and offer opportunities to serve, which are precious indeed. We would then ask if we might attempt to query to begin." Lalima, am I correct in assuming you're willing to answer questions of a general nature in a similar manner to Lutwi? I am Lalima, and you are correct, my brother. Do you have such a query? Yes. I recently completed a book by Shirley MacLaine, Out on a Limb, in which part she mentions an extraterrestrial group originating from the area we call the Pleiades, who in her description are spending some time in an effort to benefit the Earth. Can you give me any information about these individuals or entities as far as their polarity and the association they may have with the Confederation? Any general information? I am Lalima. We scan your memory of this information and find that as most efforts of Confederation members, this effort has been initiated in hopes that there could be an inspirational exchange of information that might be used to quicken the evolutionary progress of those upon your planetary surface, whose needs are for such information. In each Confederation effort, it is hoped that where there is a call, an answer in some form might be provided, which then could accelerate the activity of seeking what you call the truth, which then quickens the progress of the seeker. As in most efforts, the effort has had the, shall we say, balancing opportunity of being mixed with some, shall we say, questionable information, for it is not always known by those who receive such information that care must be taken in the reception, lest the reception become garbled in the metaphysical sense, that is joined with the services of those who seek the darker path. May we attempt further response, my brother? I'd like to ask a question on another subject. A friend in Cincinnati has, I suppose channeling would be the best description, channeled quite a bit of information, which seemed to me it had the great feel of great accuracy. I'm curious as to the teachers who provide him information, assist him in progress. Are they associated with the Confederation, or are they operating in some manner independently of the Confederation? I am Lalima, and in cases such as the one you speak, there are often entities who dwell within your inner plane realms who are of your planetary influence and who are, shall we say, in between incarnations, and therefore available through agreement with entities who are incarnate upon your planet. They serve then as resources and advisors or teachers, as you might call them, to incarnate entities and answer calls as do those of the Confederation. Though not in the strict sense members of this Confederation, such entities work conjointly, shall we say, with Confederation entities and principles as they attempt service of another nature than do those who are incarnate. May we answer further, my brother? No, thank you. Been very much assistance. I am Lalima, and we are grateful to you, my brother. Is there another query that we might give an attempt to? Lalima, I'm curious, do you make your presence known and condition individuals in the group before they arrived here in this circle? I am Lalima, and it was our intent not so much to condition those who would join this circle this evening as to scan the desires and determine the calling, as you have described it, of this circle of meditation in order to discover whether or not we might be able to provide a service by initiating contact. Question. With the contact we were receiving previously, you asked for unified group questions. Could you expand on that? I am Lalima, and we would be happy to, my sister, to expand upon this most salient of points. Before joining your group this evening, we made our availability for such service known, and those of Lutwi gave us information concerning this group and the potential that we might realize in serving through attempting queries with this group. A portion of the information transferred by those of Lutwi concerns the nature of queries which might be expected within any group of beings upon your planetary surface. One can expect queries of any nature. In many cases, the queries have but momentary interest and satisfy the curiosity but briefly and add little to an entity's evolutionary opportunities. There are those queries, however, that speak to the point of the incarnation within your illusion. Those queries concern the nature of this process, its personal and general application, and the answers to such queries, when well spoken and clearly given, are valuable through all time and hold the interest of the seeker firmly in place, for they are principles describing the nature of one's being, the nature of one's environment, and the nature of one's evolution through the environment of the creation of the one creator. Those of Latwii spoke to us in regards to this subject by suggesting that though this group was well focused in general concerning information that does not fade, that there were from time to time those queries which were of little import and had the effect of moving the focus from that which endures to that which dissolves quickly. Thus we made our suggestions, which could be made even to the good and serious student, that queries are most helpful to group understanding, shall we say, and evolutionary progress if they seek to strike to the heart of the mysteries of one's being and the evolutionary progress. Question: Lalima, over the past few months, I've almost been avoiding any type of meditation because afterwards I've been feeling a weariness, just a physical hurting. I've experienced it again the other evening. I was just sitting quietly in another person's house and I started picking up a conditioning, and then shortly thereafter I began picking up a feeling of something or someone hurting. I'm not sure what this is that I'm picking up, but it is causing weariness. It was suggested that maybe I was picking up feelings from the planet. I don't know exactly what's going on, but if you can shed light on it in any way, I'd appreciate it. I am Lalima, and as we scan your experiential beingness, we find there are some comments which we make without infringing upon your own process of discovery. As the seeker encounters the difficult experience, that which stretches the ability to accept, the seeker then finds itself as the drumhead, we find you call it, which has been stretched most tightly across the framework of which it is part. This stretching within a seeker's being will cause the seeker to become more sensitive to vibrations both within and without its own being. This is a natural portion of the evolutionary process, for it enables the seeker to become sensitive to that which has been placed before it as an opportunity for furthering its own evolution. However, the seeker is also then more sensitive to any experience in which it finds itself. While the more intense portions of one's experience are proceeding, it is often helpful to take more of the time in meditation. This provides the opportunity for utilizing the experience more completely rather than dissipating one's effort in many directions. This may seem paradoxical, that one should increase an experience which seems to be wearying. Yet you will find, my brother, that increased meditative periods will provide you with the ability to utilize that opportunity which has been placed before you and which has caused you for the moment to become a more sensitive instrument. Question: just one other thing along with something else, a feeling of no longer belonging or no longer a part of things. I feel I've just gotten to a point where wherever I am, it's just an act to get along because I no longer seem to fit anywhere. Can you comment? I am Lalima. We may comment by again directing your attention to our previous response and that characteristic of the difficulty or traumatic opportunity for learning which renders the seeker more sensitive for its duration. Often another effect which spins off from the primary effort is the seeming distance that the seeker seeks to shield or provide a buffer between it and an environment which is increasingly painful, shall we say. We utilize the word painful in an attempt to describe the sensitivity which the seeker will frequently discover as the difficult experience becomes apparent to it. Question: Lalima, I would publicly and with the utmost care challenge you as a spirit in the name of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Do you come in His name and for His glory? I am Lalima, as we have chosen to call ourselves to this group, and at the core of our being we join each of you in that love and light of the one Master that is known to you as Jesus. We appreciate your concern and your challenge, my sister. We have spoken to this subject but briefly this evening in mentioning that there are far too few of your peoples aware of the need for such a challenge upon a regular basis, for entities unseen who speak through instruments. For as you know, my sister, it is indeed a crowded universe, and many would speak, yet the challenge winnows those with whom you might benefit from the speaking. Carla asks, only the latter. I thank you for your appropriate response. It helps to hear it. I thank you. I'd like to ask you two things. And the first one is, how is it when you came into my mind and the whole time I had the words came easily enough, but they didn't always come in sentences because you were bouncing around like a trampoline. And my mind bounces around like a trampoline, and so it was kind of crazy, and you're just talking like the most sober judge in the world. They're in Mickey or Jim, and I wondered what happened. I mean, he's got a sense of humor that's really good. I am Lalima, and putting aside the minor amount of improvement or acquiring of skill that we have gained this evening, we are able to utilize this instrument's rather notoriously rigid mental configuration in speaking in a manner which seems more fluid. But if you were in this mind, my sister, you would discover many hard places. Carla giggling says, "Don't make me laugh." Okay, we apologize for the discomfort and would complete our query by suggesting that we are yet tumbling about in our abilities to utilize an human instrument and are somewhat relieved to be able to speak in a seemingly coherent and smooth sense, yet hope that even within this instrument's rigidity that we might enjoy the fluidity with which was the characteristic of your own mind, my sister. There is hope. Carla then says, "Yeah, I really wanted to know. I've heard this before from Latwii, and I really would like to know why it is that the fifth density, or at least you two, both seem full of laughter and love and all kinds of good information to share with other people. I get the feeling that it is not appropriate. You said it never occurred to you to try to communicate with other people. Whatever you were doing. I'll have to go back and read it. But then you talk to the Latwii or somebody in Latwii, and they're talking about this group and this instrument, and so you decided to give it a whirl. But number one, why is it that response has come for us? And number two, why did you give us a whirl? And number three, was it worth it?" I am Lalima, and indeed, my sister, it has been quite worth it thus far, and we see great hope for what you call the future of this contact with this group. We sought to serve in the initiation of our contact, and we have sought to serve in a dual capacity, that is, speaking a message of general inspiration and then attempting to lend our point of view and beingness to the capacity of attempting to answer queries. Just as each human instrument is unique and offers an individualized flavor, shall we say, when utilized by any Confederation entity, just so your group might, we hope, benefit from another flavor of Confederation entity. We have come to this group in hopes that the message, which is always and ever the same, might find new home within each seeker in a manner which perhaps lends another aspect to that simple message of love. Carla then says, "Thank you. I am Lalima, and we thank you, my sister. We are gaining somewhat better contact with this instrument and use of its vocabulary and experience, and hope that it will bear with us as we move within its mind and search for those concepts which might not only enlighten those who ask the query, but enlighten and enable our own being as well, for we learn much as we share with you that which is ours to share. May we attempt another query, my friends." I have another one, Lalima, in reference to the sources of information available to those who would be seekers. It appears to me that there are three sources initially available that I'm aware of. The first coming through one's own contact with what might be termed intelligent infinity, one's direct connection with the awareness of the universe. The second one, one's ability on a selective basis to communicate with pre-incarnate souls, entities who act as teachers. A third source of information, entities such as yourselves. Are there other sources of information as well that we are not aware of, that I'm not aware of? I am Lalima, and my brother, we may say that there is but one source, the one which moves in all, and yet, my brother, we may say there are infinite sources, for this one expressed itself in infinite variation, and your own creation contains infinite resources which any seeker might partake in furthering its own evolution. To look within one's own being is to see all that there is. To look within the eyes of another is to see all that there is through another's eyes. To look at your creation of flowers and trees, of birds and insects, the wind and weather, is to see the Creator moving with a simple elegance, yet containing all answers to all queries, for those who seek with discerning eyes and ears and yearning hearts. You may look about you at any source, and if you look beyond that which meets the physical eye, you will see the one Creator there in full, whole, and perfect, willing to teach all that you seek. Question: Yes, I'd like to ask you to clarify whether a statement is correct or not. That among the different, if you will, schools of thought, branches of seeking, the basic information is essentially the same, that which is true and correct. The distinctions between the individual groups lie primarily within either distorted communication of information or a selective bias on the part of the recipient of the information, this being over some minor aspects. For example, the idea some believe that reincarnation exists, but that the individual continues as a sentient individual, continually being reborn. Others believing that for the individual who does not strive, a regressive type of reincarnation occurs until that individual can regress so far that they can no longer be sentient. So if I could re-clarify my statement for you, I'm thinking out loud, please bear with me. Would I be correct in assuming that among the schools of thought and seeking on our planet, the essential information is correct? The minor information that separates them from one another is the result of distortion through communication or personal bias on the part of recipients. I am Lalima, and we thank you, my brother, for taking the time to phrase a query which has importance to those who seek the many sources of the One. The One is in all in some fashion speak of the One. The many voices heard are all the voices of the One. You may liken their method of speaking of the One to accents or colloquial means of description sported in various locations of your own country. All speak your English language, yet the coloration is found in many places. This is the uniqueness which the Creator has sought by making itself many. To those who dwell within the worlds of the many, these unique colorations may seem confusing, in some cases mutually exclusive. Yet if you will look to the heart of all speaking, you will find the One speaking. Therefore, the seeker must take the responsibility of discerning that which is close to the heart, and that with we shall correct this instrument, and that which orbits the far fringes of the heart, all is part of the One. Look for the heart of the One, my brother. Carla then says, I get this feeling that you're putting that answer in such a way that Elle has to think about it, and so I want to have a go at it, okay? We're taught generally, at least all three of us anyway, who have studied all this kind of stuff, that there are a lot of inner plane teachers. That's what she was talking about. People that we listened to. A tape this morning of someone channeling Annie Besant. Annie Besant just wrote about Madame Blavatsky, and Madame Blavatsky was just a channel. So you're getting pretty far away from the source, and Annie didn't have anything really enlightening to say, although it was very lovely and made you feel warm and gooey and soft. And one enjoys listening to warm and soft and cuddly things like that, so I enjoyed that tape very much. I think that kind of warm, gooey, marshmallowy, but love and light, you know, but not real intellectually feeling. And then you get the outer densities, the densities that don't happen to be involved in the earth density. And they do really seem to be qualitatively different in the amount of brain power they can put to the scope. I suppose with which they answer questions. There's less emphasis on some date, an earth date, and more emphasis on God's time. So it seems to me the way things fall that really do appear to be inner and outer planes of this wisdom relative to mind. We are right. Is this true? I am Lalima, and you are quite correct, my sister. There are many travelers on this journey. Some have gone further and some seen more sights, shall we say. Each describes what each has seen. All has seen some portion of the one Creator. All seek fashion to share that vision. Those who seek also are responsible for what is found. When you seek with a pure heart and one-pointed mind, you shall find that which is more precisely of value to you. When you seek that of general interest, when you seek to know of some phenomenological occurrence that has little value to your seeking, you shall find that which you seek, and there are those who shall tell you of it. What shall you seek, and what shall you find? Carlo then says, that was a beautiful answer. It helps a lot. Thank you very much. I am Lalima, and we thank you, my sister. May we share our journey with another query. Yes, Lalima, are you considered a social memory complex? I am Lalima, and am one of many who are within what you have come to know as a social memory complex, or as the process of evolution occurs within the various densities of this creation. There are those travelers who find comradeship and companionship in the seeking, and who join with those who share their experiences and their desires. We are those who have joined, and to this group have called ourselves Lalima. May we further answer, my brother? Yes, please. Well, are the majority of entities in Lalima of an area grouping, or is it quite diverse? And from what area was the origin? As well, a sort of conversion of time for the group as far as the origin? I am Lalima. We find within your query some difficulty for us in discerning the gist, shall we say, but we can suggest that our origins are much like your own, for within the creation of the One, it has been found there is a progress possible from the foundational elements, shall we say, that are those portions of the one Creator, with which each octave begin as earth, wind, fire, and water, joined to form that which shall become matter, as you call it. And as this formation is quickened with the awareness of the one, then the life as you know it proceeds as fruit of that forming and joining. And as this life becomes aware of itself, then it seeks to join in a fashion that is social and, as you would call, analogous to the human conditions. Thus we have evolved, as have you, through this process of the one becoming many, yet simple, of the many simple portions becoming more complex, and having the awareness expanded through a series of exponential jumps or leaps, shall we say. Question: well, thank you very much. I was sort of interested in an age factor, but that's really kind of irrelevant, I imagine. You said you had spoken only to humans on this earth occasionally. Are there other entities that you have communicated with who are living on other planets or even within this planet? I am Lalima. In our introductory remarks, we described in a general fashion those entities to which we have offered our service, many within your planetary influence, and these entities have been more of what you would call the pre-human nature. Those entities who seek to move from the group or herd to the individualized conscious natures, which is, we correct this instrument, individualized conscious natures, which are in general given to the species known as human. We seek, shall we say, ennoble and inspirit these entities, for they call as a group for such investment, as you may also call it. We have attempted to perform this service upon those within your own planetary influence and others as well. You mentioned just now, you said that pre-human groups call as a group, using the present tense rather than the past tense. Could you tell us about the pre-human groups that are calling as a group at this particular moment? I am Lalima. There are upon your planet and within your planet those entities of what you have come to call the second density nature, who through many cycles of incarnation have gained nearly enough individualization to enter that density that you are now ending. These entities are of many nature and species. There are many who swim your oceans, many who dwell within your tropical regions, some who move within your atmosphere, and others who dwell deep in forests and underground caverns. The variety of species is great. Well, thank you. Are you also communicating with third density individuals on other planets that are not considered human? No, my brother, we are not. Yours is the first effort we have made of this nature. Thank you very much. Carla then says, I'd like to know how the instrument's doing, energy-wise and stuff like that. You really have to take care of them, you know. They'll just conk out on you completely. I am Lalima, and as we look at this instrument's energy field, we find that it grows thin in some places. We shall have to become more skilled at the utilization of the human brain-mind complex, for our contact is somewhat wearing. This we have discovered upon the scanning of this instrument. We would suggest a final query or two. L says, one quick one. In our density, we have individuals who have become leaders for the rest of us, forerunners. What about on the second density? Is there such a creature, a porpoise, among porpoises? I am Lalima, and though this phenomenon is not unheard of, it is quite rare, for it is the characteristic of those second density creatures. They shall express their conscious being in a group form. Each individual entity then is closely connected to the group mind, and there is a species type of telepathy which reinforces this natural inclination. Therefore, it is less likely that an individual entity within the second density illusion will become what you would call the leader. Yet in some cases, this does occur. Most are found within the relationship that third density entities have with what you call pets. Carla then says, I'd like to ask one final quick one. It's just a confirmation. It's true. When I got the idea, when you first began speaking, it seemed like these entities were big and shaggy, and I flashed on the Bigfoot type that I took on those bodies when Maldek blew up to try to take some sort of entity into third density. And I was just wondering, is this the type of being among those that you serve? If you can confirm that. I am Lalima. We are happy, my sister, that you have discerned this particular portion of our service, for it is indeed the heart of our service has been for a great portion of what you call time concerning your own planetary influence, those of the Maldekian origin, as you have come to know this race, have in great numbers incarnated upon your planetary sphere from the beginning of its third density cycle, in order that they may make alleviation of their actions upon the planet you have called Maldek. It has been added to our opportunities to serve other more truly second density creatures as an offshoot service of working with those of whom you speak. my friends, we find that we have reached. So about a week later, they get another channeling from Lalima. Carla's channeling this time, saying, I am Lalima, glory alleluia. It is good to be with my group. It is good to be with each of you, and we greet each of you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. Many are the times we have thought that we might be able to contact this group once again, slipping in between other entities. We speak now through this instrument by permission of those of Latwii, and we promise not to stay long or bend your ears over much. We are also attempting to learn to speak more roundly and in a dignified manner. We find this instrument is capable of this, but the relaxed instrument thinks internally in far less of a stylish manner. We have been so glad to be with you as we listen to those of Hatonn speak, for this is deep wisdom in this lesson of love. As we are in the density of wisdom, we find it unlikely that we might repartee so eloquent upon the subject of compassion as we now learn tempering and refining by means of what you call wisdom. We find upon this instrument's mind the record which this instrument and each of you in the circle of this blessed group heard as you began your session. We would speak to some small extent about the concern for the starving. We might suggest this has a general implication, but we would speak specifically, since our task as volunteers at this time in your planet's transition is so appropriate to the concern of starvation, we must speak to it, and we thank you for the opportunity. There are, we scan, billions of your peoples whose energy nexi have progressed from the group to the individual. They are very, very confused, still fearful, and yet aware they are unique. At the same time, their only hope of achieving full third density in their own minds and in the minds of those who comfort them is to achieve an incarnation of third density, which is one dealing totally with privation. This is due to the feeling of tremendous guilt which comes to those who, as Hatonn's story demonstrated, caused the killing, more especially the killing of an entire planet. The balance is long, as you would say, in time in coming. However, in time many things are healed, and yet always there must be the will of the entity to be healed, and often a great part of being healed is expiation for that which one feels the guilt. In this case, the answer is to offer up a third density existence in full third density and to die of starvation. There are not enough starving children for our needs. As you might say, the point of view is everything. We, however, appreciate the feeling of this instrument. It is a work of compassion to care for those who are hungry, ill, or in any way have lost the harmony of being, which is the birthright of those who are fully conscious of the self. Each incarnation is, as this instrument would say, compounded daily, so that experiences mount up one upon another, and a more or less integrated incarnational experience is the result of the incarnational effort. During the incarnation, which may be short or long, depending upon that which needs to be accomplished within the incarnation, things pleasant and things unpleasant shall occur. Those things which seem terrible and horrible and grotesque will occur to some, most of whom have no reason anyone could say to have deserved these things. Then there are the pleasant times and perhaps again the unpleasant encircling. The end of this experience is, as we have said, a whole in which there is to some extent a pattern or crystallization or regularization of experience. Each of you has the job not of judging Catalyst, but of using it, and in the compounding of use of it, you begin to find your choices of polarity, and the speed with which you wish your evolution to proceed. You are looking for something that can be called clarity. Some entities achieve clarity in a soft and lucid manner, the regularization being so subtle and complex that the crystal being is more like water than stone. Others achieve a brilliant clarity which glistens like the gem. Those times when each of you feels muddied in thought are times in which it is well to repeat to the self these things which I have told you in order to achieve the perspective and a balance. We do not challenge your perceptions of pleasantness and unpleasantness, and we have compassion for the unpleasantness that each of you must experience, and that is experienced in such an extreme fashion by those who die in war or starve or freeze. However, remember the goal is to process and balance Catalyst. We are very grateful to this group, and we have been allowed to speak and will now leave with many Tekel Upsharin. Actually, that is somewhat appropriate. There is no wall directly in the room. There are many thoughts of latter days. It is with many thanks that we leave this beloved group. Then in 1986, Carla's channeling and says, I am Lalima. I greet you in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. It is a privilege to have been called to your group this evening, for although none in the circle but this instrument had a question, this instrument has a pressing question, and to this we shall address ourselves. The question this instrument believes it is asking is, am I a Christian? However, we shall approach the answer in a way unexpected to this instrument. To be what you call alive, and what more precisely could be called within a certain type of chemical body that dwells in a third density illusion, is to be concerned with death. For insofar as you have been born into an illusion, to that illusion you shall inevitably die, for that which begins shall also end. The question of what lies beyond the incarnation you now experience is a question central to an understanding of your own nature. We of the Confederation of Planets, in the service of the infinite Creator, have offered you in many different ways the message of eternal existence and infinite consciousness, which is offered you not only by that which you call Christianity, but many other religions. We would speak first of the love of death, which distorts many among your peoples. This yearning for death may have many causes. Many have been uncomfortable within their incarnate bodies, dwelling in what seems to be an inhospitable atmosphere as long as they can remember, and consequently yearn for that which puts a period to this existence, an existence which is seen as inadequate and foolish. Others have had experiences devastating enough to have caused distortions toward the contemplation of removing the self from this illusion. Others, being of a warlike nature, find it deeply ingrained in their nature to seek risk, knowing well that death may ensue and welcoming that possibility in order to live what seems to be a more finely tuned moment-by-moment existence during the time of risk. It is not coincidence, but intention upon the part of the author who created the motion picture known as Rambo, that seeming bloodthirsty and death-filled person has a name which is the Americanized spelling of a French poet fascinated with the romance of death and capable of writing about it with ravishing beauty. However, one comes at a fascination of death. It is as though one were making war upon oneself, for each of you came into this incarnation not to die, but to live. And to live thinking greatly of death is to live less well, and to live absorbed in, rejoicing in, and giving thanksgiving for each moment of beauty, love, and glory, for glory there is all about you and within you. It is the glory within that causes your peoples to seek some way of finding, exploring, and expressing that articulated glory, which, though gushing like a geyser from the deepest portions of being, comes into consciousness with a demand to be articulated. It is a rare being who can consciously love and serve the Creator without some structure. This is, however, by no means impossible, and indeed there is a minimum of distortion involved in the patient returning again and again to the daily practice of meditation and the persistent analysis of one's own being. For it is within you and within each of you that the consciousness you seek lies, that the foreverness for which you hunger and thirst is seated. To many, there has been given a gift, that is, the gift of congruency and personality and character with an already established religion, as you call it. We call this a gift because it puts within the reach of the aspirant who finds himself congruent with an established religion many helpful tools for discovering the consciousness which constitutes the presence of the Creator. Now, there are semantics involved in the discussion of religion, and many who would wish to be Christians have found themselves unable to accept some of the wordings, phraseology, and seemingly limited viewpoints of others who call themselves Christians. In many cases, Christians are more vitriolic and judgmental of other Christians than they are of those whom they consider to be heathen. These things cause one who has been given the gift of congruency with a certain distortion of structure of approach to the one original thought, the feeling that one does not fit in, that one cannot possibly be a Christian. And yet we say that it is pleasurable and instructive and nourishing to study the teachings and to live the life of the Christ. Then one shall not listen to those whose Christianity bears a different mark. However, in return, one Christian so judged as not being Christian is cautioned to refrain from making the same mistake about the challenging, for this word is a word and no more. The point in any approach to divinity is to discover and dwell in the presence of love, the one original and creative thought. You people have many idols. They include those things which your people think of as idols and recognize as dangerous, spiritually speaking. We may name money, power, and worldly addictions such as lust, gross eating, and other excesses as being those idols which the world recognizes very well. There are other less recognizable idols. One of these idols is the man known as Jesus. Another is the man known as Gautama Buddha. Another Lao Tzu. Another Confucius. Another Muhammad, and so forth. None of these men hollowed themselves out to be worshipped, but rather to become the messengers, channels, and wayfarers, sharing a consciousness, the consciousness of the Creator. It is well to honor and respect the ruthless determination of such men, as we have mentioned, the determination to listen and to follow the Spirit within, that which may be called the higher self, the Holy Spirit, the Comforter, the Paraclete, the Counselor or inner guidance. We are not interested in semantics. We are interested in providing each of you with the freedom, the feeling of free inspiration, shall we say, to pursue the presence of Christ consciousness. That is, that which was channeled through Christ, the man known as Jesus, Christ the Buddha, the Christ of Lao Tzu, the Christ of Confucius, the Christ of Muhammad, and so forth. There is nothing that lies between a judging Christian and a judged Christian but semantics. To allow any outer influence to remove one's attention from the inner voice which speaks in silence and in thunder is folly, and we may strongly suggest to you that you be not dissuaded from what you feel to be so for you because of the judgment of others, although we urge each of you to consider patiently and in love each word spoken, whether in condemnation or praise, for each word that you hear from another is a mirror into which you may look and find yourself. One can only thank a mirror. It is but glass with a backing to show you to yourself. That backing may not think itself to be neutral, may not consider itself a catalyst, but rather an apostle of what is right. This is not important to one who listens, for the Creator is speaking to you in condemnation as well as in praise. And if there is a lack of patience when looking in the mirror, then perhaps the gaze may be, through the discipline of meditation, bound to become more and more easy as one comes into loving and compassionate unity with the one who judges. It is not for any entity to follow another's path, for you have your own path. It is rather incumbent upon each seeker to be firm, stubborn, and inexorably persistent about listening to the guidance which comes from within. Your discrimination will tell you what feeds you and what does not. You cannot be competitive about spiritual unfoldment or enlightenment. You can only be your personal best. We ask you to follow, each of you, your own path, but to give it your personal best. For though it is not well to be fascinated with death, it is indeed well to recognize its inevitability and to seek for what lies beyond. For until one dwells in mystery, one cannot have the energy and motivation to seek the truth, to find a way to live that reflects the glory within. Are you a Christian? Are you a Buddhist? Are you a Confucian? Does your path lie with the Sufis? Have you found the Confederation of Planets to be closest to your own path? Very well, whatever your choice, acknowledge it, and do not look back, for the choice of one path and the following of it faithfully are most important. We suggest you follow it not only with energy, but with discrimination, gazing with joy upon the example of the entity or entities whom you have found to be fullest of Christ consciousness. But we ask you to look always not only at the frail, brave, suffering, and hollowed-out human, which became a channel to be of service to many, but to spend time gazing upon the face of deity, however you may find it, and by whatever names you preserve it. It is a good thing to be what you are, and what you are will grow and change and transform, yet it is likely that one pattern or another is most likely congruent with your vibratory energy pattern. Thusly, not all of you will be Christians, not all of you will be Sufis, and so forth, yet all these structures yield the same living water. All are channels through which this water may flow, and it is the discipline and devotion and firm intention to follow the example set before you that will open to you the consciousness which all have come to give, that one consciousness of the one Creator. You have within you that one Creator, and in fact, in the end, you shall be that one Creator. May your path be pleasant and light, and may your voice be merry as you walk along it. For though you may be often cast down, yet the example set before you by whatever path you have chosen is always that of one who presses on, asking only to be more and more hollowed out, to become more and more pure channel for the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. To take oneself too seriously is to stumble on a rock of your own making. So reach toward the light as do your trees and flowers, and clap your hands with joy, for you are here in the presence of Christ consciousness. At this very moment, it flows about you, within you, and between you, linking you with your deepest self and with each other. That moment is now, and all the nows that you shall ever experience. Encourage the faculty of laughter, for the face of the infinite invisible one is a face of ultimate joy. We will rest within your vibrations, lost in the joy of your presence within us, and we offer back to you our blessing and assure you that we are with you at any time you should wish to invite our presence. We shall leave this instrument now, hoping that the answer to this question is not obscure or confusing. It is difficult to cut through the semantics of emotionally laden words, which signify different things to different people. We hope that we have been helpful. We are those of Lalima. Jim then begins to channel, and they ask some questions. T asks, recently I had a very serious disagreement with my brother, my biological brother. It seems that part of the roots of this are in the way we treated one another when we were children, especially the way I treated him. And there seems to be the opinion on my brother's part that I really don't love him, and this is something that during my life I have thought about a lot. Sometimes I don't feel as though I really do have the capacity or the capability to really and truly love. I guess my question is, to start with, how does one go about recognizing, in different people, the capability to love, to show love, and to feel love for others, seen in different? I'm not sure what I want to ask. Could you just comment on that? I am Lalima, and we believe that we may make comment from the information you have given. Within your illusion, the lesson is love. The lesson is begun when the conscious seeker becomes aware that it is the lesson. To begin the lesson, one may look at carefully the relationships and feelings that we have developed within them that one has formed through the incarnation. Within each relationship, there will be a mixture of feelings and experiences that will sum into what you may call the core or foundation of feeling. Each entity seeking to love and to understand the concept of love will then compare what is felt with what is imagined to be love. And here we must state that few within your illusion are capable of truly loving and of knowing what love is, for there is only the ability within your illusion to begin this lesson. Yet within most entities' experience, there is the remembrance of a few who have demonstrated what seems to be unquestionably that called love, for it is easier to feel love from another at first than to give love. Thus the seeker, throughout its experience of relationships with those about it, begins to determine certain features or characteristics that seem to be a part of that called love. And then each seeker in some fashion takes that seed or facet of love and plants it as a desire within its own heart and mind, and waters it with attention, with care, and with further desire that it might flourish and become a nourishment for those about it. At this point, those about the seeker begin to notice the quality that is developing towards love and begin to reflect back to the seeker other qualities more closely aligned with developing concept and experience of love. This process then continues betwixt all those who are aware of this process. Thusly is love born, and does love become more and more seated or rooted, if you will, within each seeker's being. Yet in most cases, such feelings of love are most nebulous and transitory, with moments of inspiration and brilliance to inspire the seeker onward. Yet once again and yet again, the seeker returns to the daily round of activities where it seems that love resides not. Undaunted, in some cases the seeker redoubles the desire, and again the process is repeated. That which is felt is given and returned, and is given and returns, and love continues to take root. However quickly or slowly matters not. The process has begun, and will continue as a direct function of the seeker's desire to penetrate the mystery of love, of loving, and of being loved. Carla then asks, what I heard him asking was, can I fall in love? It seems that not everybody does. I think falling in love is a different perception from universal love or compassion. And I think everybody yearns for it. And a lot of people don't get the chance to fall in love. They don't meet the right person. The chemistry doesn't happen. Some people do fall in love. I've fallen in love. I count myself lucky, even though it's always turned out to be a painful experience too. Could you comment on the extreme chanciness of having the opportunity to fall in love in this illusion? I am Lalima and shall attempt to speak to this subject. We find there are many approximations of that which we would call love, the more universal compassion that one may eventually feel for all of creation. The concept of romantic love is what we would call an approximation of the more universal kind of love of which we have been speaking, and it is indeed true that few within your illusion are able to experience this type of love. though more, far more indeed, experience this type of love than experience universal compassion. The degree to which pain of the experience accompanies the experience is the degree to which we would suggest that the mind has formed the boundaries within which love is allowed to express. For if there are no conditions or boundaries to the expression of love, there can be no pain accompanying the loss of such love, for there will be no loss. The love of which we speak is that which exists in all events and indeed is the creative force that moves all entities and events. Thus, the condition of the romantic form or approximation of love is one which, shall we say, has tapped a certain path or channel to love, and which forms certain boundaries within which the love may express. The boundaries are of mental construction and are not necessary except for the learning of certain lessons having to do with what may be seen both as a limitation of love and the universal point of view, or perhaps the expansion of love from the personal point of view. I am Lalima, and we thank you, my brother. We would, at this time, thank each for offering us the opportunity to join this group this evening, to offer that which is a portion of our humble experience in seeking and becoming the same love which draws each onward in the great quest for truth. We shall leave this group at this time, rejoicing with you in the experience of being and becoming. We are known to you as those of Lalima. Adonai, my friends, Adonai Vasu Borgas. Now, there are many more Lalima channelings. We can probably dedicate some additional episodes if you guys are interested. But I really found this a very fascinating sort of understanding of the channeling process. We get some references from Carla where she describes what it felt like in her mind when they were channeling through her. And they had a different syntax. They had a sort of sense of humor and a different way of speaking and talking. I found it very fascinating when they talked about their primary purpose was raising entities from second density into third density, which means raising entities like dogs and cats and apes, people of second density, into incarnation into third density as humans. That's amazing. That's what this entity was doing, and is sort of broadening out their perspective. And you get an idea from the end of that they had particularly worked with people from Maldek that had to take form of these sort of Bigfoot bodies according to the Law of One, and they helped them in their transition back up into third density. So we also get an understanding that the entities from Maldek had been sent into a second density existence for a given period of time. And so we are all experiencing the density that we deserve to be in as we grow and go on this soul's journey. And it's very interesting what they had to say. I really enjoy some of the dialogues that Lalima has, different than Quo or Ra, and this was very inspirational to me. So I'd love to get your perspectives, and we'll definitely return to Lalima and any of the Confederation entities. They all fascinate me. In any case, you can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. And welcome to The Reality Revolution.